My name's Mark Walmer. I'm going to be doing a short video about the process of getting criminal records expunged or pardoned. One of the primary questions is always, how do I get rid of a criminal record, and what's the difference between a pardon and an expungement? Expungements are a process of clearing very small convictions like summary offenses or juvenile records, or charges that were brought that a person was never convicted of. So if a charge was brought which was subsequently null-prossed or dismissed or withdrawn, that is not a conviction, and so that can be expunged. The expungement statute's very specific as to what can be expunged and when. Any misdemeanor or felony convictions have to be pardoned by the governor before they can be expunged. So expungements are relatively quick, few months from the time they're started until the record's cleared. They're filed in the county where the record was created, and they only cover certain things. Briefly, what can be expunged are summary offenses that are over 5 years old, charges that were withdrawn, dismissed, null-prossed, a underage drinking offense after the person reaches the age of 21. That's basically it. Juvenile charges after you reach the age of 21 with certain criteria. So those are what can be expunged. In addition, anything that's been pardoned by the governor. So now the pardon process is a much longer process. It takes 1 to 2 years. And it has to be commenced by filling out an application to be filed with the governor of Pennsylvania at the Governor's Board of Pardons. It basically includes documentation of the crime, an explanation of why the crime occurred, what the person has done with their life since then, and how the record is holding them back or why they want a pardon. Some questions that frequently come up is, how do I know whether I need a pardon or an expungement? And the answer is, it always begins with looking at the actual record to see what it is. Is it a conviction? Is it a summary offense? Or is it a conviction of a misdemeanor or a felony? Actually, it all depends on the particular record. So the first thing is, the person needs to go to the UJS portal and put in their first name, last name, and date of birth, and that will give them the public record of whatever has been filed against them. Some common questions I get as well are, how long does a felony stay on your record? Criminal records in general, especially felonies, are always going to stay on your record. It is not like a credit history where a bankruptcy drops off after 7 years or anything like that. Felonies are always going to appear on the public docket and in the criminal history. Misdemeanor offenses are more complicated because the Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts passed something called Clean Slate, and there is a computer algorithm that goes through the records, and if you have a small misdemeanor that's over 10 years old, it is supposed to hide it. The trouble is that record sealing doesn't really seal it. What it does is leave it so that only the police and the courts can see it, but it can still be used against you. So if you have a misdemeanor conviction and you didn't get it pardoned, but you can't find it, then we need to try to find the record, probably by requesting a Pennsylvania State Police criminal history. What criminal convictions cannot be expunged? Technically, as I said, the governor's board wants to hear the story about why the crime occurred, what you've done since then, and how the record is holding you back. It's a 2-year process for them to review it, and you need to get a certain number of votes to process through each step of the process. And if you don't get the votes, the rules say you have to wait a year, and then you can ask again. If you do get the votes from the board, at least 3 out of 5 votes after a public presentation, then your application is sent to the governor, and he is basically the sixth vote. The governor of Pennsylvania has been issuing a large number of pardons. In general, the older the charge and the smaller the charge, the easier it is to predict. Sexual offenses get a very close review, and their board is going to ask a lot of questions about what happened and why, and how they can be comfortable that it's old news, so to speak. How do I get a felony pardoned? Well, as you know by now, the felony, if it's a conviction, has to be pardoned by the governor first. When the governor sends a pardon after that 2-year process, then an expungement can be filed on the pardon. The expungement's filed in the county of conviction, and it will actually remove the criminal record from the public databases and the Pennsylvania State Police. The expungement statute cannot be used until that conviction has been pardoned by the governor. How long does the expungement process take? The expungement process takes basically a couple of months from beginning to end. The pardon process takes a couple of years, 24 months plus or minus. That's it. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. There's a lot of other questions, but I can cover them in a subsequent video.